Welcome to the Phil Steele Plus Tour for Week 10. And a nice winning week last week, going 4-3. How many of these half-point and one-point losses can we have on the course of a year? You know, last week we had two games, both tight. You look at this Texas A&M game last week. Remember, we gave out Texas A&M and as a minus 12.5 against Arkansas. And once again, here on Phil Steele Plus, the purpose of this tour, first and foremost, is to get you to utilize Phil Steele Plus to its fullest so that you know all the stuff that's up here. This is all the stuff I use. I like to have all this at my fingertips. We've been compiling this for 20 plus years. But when you click on the box, you actually get the actual box score from the game from collegepressbox.com. And you might not know this. If you just looked at the final scores, you'd see what A&M's final score was for the game. But if we go to the fourth quarter here, and we had A&M, once again, minus 12. Let's see, it's the third quarter. Let's get to that fourth quarter. It is right here, the third quarter, actually. It is Texas A&M 42-17. Very easy win. Arkansas goes and gets a touchdown, makes it 42-24. A&M, Arkansas here, they punt. A&M, Arkansas gets stopped on downs. Arkansas takes over in this game with 2 minutes and 5 seconds left, goes down and scores the dreaded backdoor touchdown with 36 seconds left, costing us a Phil Steele Plus Tour winner. We would have been 5-2 at that one. And what's up with James Franklin going for 2 points all the time? You look here in the Ohio State game, 38-25 final. We had Penn State plus 12.5. Well, here he went for 2, failed, went for 2, failed. If they just kick the extra point, kick the extra point. Final score is 38-27. Those two things change one play in each of those games. We're 6-1 last week, but hell, I'll take 4-3 each and every week during the course of the year. Love winning weeks. All right, let's get to this week's tour. Now, I just showed you how to use the box scores, which, as mentioned, collegepressbox.com, invaluable. Give you a complete box score in every game, every play of every game, and I do go through the play-by-play of every single game. Want to bring up a fantasy player for you. This is not a selection. I do have plenty of free plays for you. This is a fantasy player to look at, and it's going to show you how to use these individual player stats. Now, the team pages here on philsteele.com, you click on them, and here is all your conferences. So I want to put Iowa State over here and show you a player. I talked to Coach Campbell last year, and he said, watch Breece Hall. And I talked to Coach Campbell actually right before the season started. I said, of your freshman running backs, who's going to emerge? He said Breece Hall. Now, let me click on the individual stats here. Breece Hall, that's this year's individual stats. Sorry about that. Let's go back and look at last year's individual stats. They're right here on every team. And by the way, when you go down the team page, they're there for 17. They're there for 16. If you want to click on 16 and see how each player did against every opponent, it's all there. We've got the information. We've logged the information. It's up there. But if we go to 2019, which was last year, and look on the individual player stats, you know, talking to Coach Campbell, look at Breece Hall, 47 yards, 0 yards, 35 yards, 0 yards, 2 yards. After 5 games, I'm like, what the heck was Coach Campbell talking about when he said Breece Hall's going to be his man this year? Then Breece Hall finally started getting the football. Look at this. 132, 183, 76, 110, 101, 97, 59, 55. Finished with 897 yards. Let's flash forward to this year, Breece Hall. We're going to take a look at 2020. And once again, you just click here for individual player stats. Gives you each game updated right here. And Iowa State has played 6 games this year. Breece Hall's rushed for 103, 154, 139, 135, 185, 185. He's the best running back in the Big Ten. I know Chuba Hubbard came in with all that hype, but 901 yards, 6.7 yards per carry, Breece Hall. Now, why? That's not my fantasy player, okay? Breece Hall's not my fantasy player. That would be a slam dunk. You know Breece Hall. The reason I bring that up is I want to go to TCU here. Now, TCU signed the number 1 rated running back coming out of high school this year in Zach Evans. And when I talked to Coach Patterson, he was pretty excited and felt once he gets worked into the system, this guy's really going to emerge. So I'm watching week 1. Let's slide this over here a little bit. And we take a look at Zach Evans. No carries. 1 carry, 3 yards. 2 carries, 4 yards. 1 carry, 10 yards. Well, where the heck? Why aren't you using Zach Evans? So a lot of times when you bring a freshman running back in, it's protection schemes. If you can't protect the quarterback, you're not going to have the field. Maybe he's got fumble problems in practice. I'm not sure what the problem was, but look, 7 carries, 81 yards. Are we about to see what happened to Breece Hall last year happen to Zach Evans in the second half of the year? If you're a fantasy football player, pick up Zach Evans. Go ahead and insert him in your lineup, because this may just have been the sign that he's going to start getting the football, and you may see him right up here at the top at the end of the year. So Zach Evans, TCU, fantasy football pickup player this week. And that should let you see how the individual player stats work as well. All right, let's start off with the average game grade play of the week. And we're going to take a look at the woeful, and I mean woeful, Mississippi State offense. We're going to put them over here on the right. They are the home team. And we're going to click over here. You know I like to put the home team on the right, visitor on the left. By the way, while I'm thinking about it, if you go to the Phil Steele store right here, you can become a Phil Steele Plus member right now for just $54. $54 gets you Phil Steele Plus, access to all the FBS information, all the FCS information, all the NFL information. You could put your two teams right beside themselves on the screen right here each and every week, and it's just $54 through the Super Bowl, for crying out loud. Through the Super Bowl, $54 gets you that subscription. It ends February the 28th. So do become a Phil Steele Plus member today. Or if you're already a PressBox member, make sure you're utilizing your Phil Steele Plus subscription, because you get it free. Once you sign up for any of my newsletters, you get the Phil Steele Plus free. But let's take a look at this matchup. It's my average game grade play of the week, and we're taking a look at Vanderbilt against Mississippi State. Now, Vanderbilt, you remember Mississippi State, what happened after week 1? Mike Leach owns the SEC. KJ Costello threw for 623 yards. They are going to light up the SEC this year. Well, LSU played man coverage the whole game. Arkansas threw his zone at them almost the entire game, held them to 400 yards. Then Kentucky held them to 295, A&M to 217. And last week, Alabama, just 200 yards. Their offense is going nowhere, right? It's a poor team, right? I like Mississippi State, and I like a minus 19 this week. 2 reasons. Number 1, they've got a good defense. Everybody talks about the offense. The only thing you talk about when you talk about Mississippi State's their offense. Let's look at their defense. Their defense is allowing 336 yards per game. They held Bama 67 yards below their season average. A&M 127 below. Kentucky. And that's what this number is out here. If you use this number out here, it's in the magazine, but it's also here. These are the yards. So let me explain how this works. If they held Texas A&M to a season low, you see this number 1 here? That's the lowest yards A&M gained all year, 325. 127 yards below their season average. Now, what we do is we take a look at how A&M did in every other game besides Mississippi State. And in every other game besides Mississippi State, they're averaging 452 yards. But Mississippi State held them to 325. So that's 127 yards below their season average. I love these numbers out here. They're holding teams to 104 yards below their season average. Hey, Vanderbilt's only gaining 298 yards a game. That means Vandy's going to gain about 194 yards here. Wow. So I don't think Vandy's going to move the ball very much. Meanwhile, Mississippi State's taking on a defense that finally says, go ahead. Vanderbilt's allowing 70% completions. They've had 4 sacks all year. They're allowing 5.9 yards per carry. This is a frustrated Coach Leach. He's never been shut out in his entire coaching career. He got shut out last week. If he gets this offense rolling, you think he's going to stop? Heck no. If he's scoring points in the fourth quarter, he's a happy guy. If he puts 49, 52 points on the board, he's happy. Look at these red numbers. And this is the difference between the magazine and Phil Steele Plus. We put everything in green and red. Red are bad numbers. Green are good numbers. And as you can see, a lot of red bad here on offense since that first game of the season. A lot of green good here. And you look at Vanderbilt, it's all red numbers. Now, the key number, I said it's the average game grade play of the week. We take a look at your average game grade. What this takes into account is it takes into account the final score of the game, the yards rushing, the yards passing, and most importantly, the opponent you played. All that is factored in to the average game grade. Now, as you see here, they played Texas A&M within 5. They lost the game. They got outgained by 117 yards, but my computer said they played to 101.3. But since then, not so much. Meanwhile, look at Mississippi State. While they've been losing, look at their average game grade. It's 101.3. So if you take 101.3, give them the 3-point home edge this week. That says Mississippi State wins this game by 26.2 points over Vanderbilt. And the last thing I want to show you here is if we take a look at the collegepressbox.com, we're going to look at collegepressbox.com here. And this is the actual forecast. Now, you get this on every single game on my Inside the Press, not collegepressbox.com, InsideThePressBox.com, my weekly newsletter. You get this on every game. You get my computer's forecast on the game over here, and then you get my complete breakdown on the game. I analyze everything. I look at past history. I look at how teams do as a home favorite, away dog. I look at who's played the tougher schedule, how the teams match up against each other. I give you a complete write-up on every game, and I give you over here the computer's forecast. Now, me and the computer don't always agree. As an example, my computer's got them winning 27-6. Still enough for the cover. I think it's going to be stronger. I've got it 34-6. But my computer does have Mississippi State with a 443 to 163 yard edge. It shows Vanderbilt running for 50 yards, passing for 114. Look at this. Mississippi State's offense been struggling, right? How about 352 yards passing this week? And the amazing thing is, if you take these projected box scores and you take the actual box score after the game's been played and you circle everything that's within 25 yards, rushing or passing, and 3 points in the point forecast, you're going to have circles all over your Inside the Press Box each week. So here is the actual forecast for the Mississippi State-Vanderbilt game. As you see, I've got a 34-6 Mississippi State. Here's your projected box score on the game, and that's what you get with Inside the Press Box each and every week. You get this on all 60 games. So you've got a complete analysis. You throw that in with this, you know everything about every single game, every single week. And Inside the Press Box, pretty cheap right now. But let's finish this up. My average game grade, game of the week, we're going to go with Mississippi State minus 19 over Vanderbilt. Now, a quick note for you on PressBox. PressBox has been on fire. And how about last week? Remember 2 weeks ago, I had a guaranteed winning week. I said, if it doesn't win, I'm giving you a $20 newsletter for free. Well, guess what? It didn't win. We didn't win on the Phil Steele Plus tour 2 weeks ago. I came out and said it. Guess what? Everybody who listened and watched the video got my press box for free. I had to give away hundreds of free Inside the Press Box last week. Guess what? Inside the Press Box went 5-1 on the college selections. And there was 2 stars. They went 2-0, so 7-1 last week. So if you took advantage of my guaranteed winning week here on the Phil Steele Plus Tour, got your free newsletter last week, and it was absolutely free, no strings attached. Just go in, sign up for the newsletter. You went 7-1 on the stars last week. I hope you enjoyed it. PressBox been on a roll, 13-5 the last 3 weeks. The 2 stars, the ones that would give a little bit higher, are 4-2 over the last 3 weeks. College and pro over the last 3 weeks, 17-7. And the NFL hitting 10-6 this year. So if you do want to sign up for Inside the Press Box for the year, you just click here on the homepage and you go to the store. And when you click on the store, here is Inside the Press Box College. Let me close this one out here. Inside the Press Box single issue. If you just want this week's single issue, it's $20. So it is $20 an issue. And by the way, guys, there is a lot of football left. There are still 13 weeks of football through the Super Bowl left this year. This is the NFL and college bundle, which is $179 for the year. College is $99. Excuse me, and the NFL, $99 for the year. And I do have a special for you just for watching this video. Let me give you your special prices for the week. If you type in the code football is back when you sign up for either the college, the NFL, football is back, it'll give you $20 off. So you're getting $79 for the rest of the regular season college, $79 for the rest of the regular season NFL. Not discounting the postseason, but that's a good price at $89. This right here, the Phil Steele Plus is $54. You get all of that. College, pro, postseason, Phil Steele Plus. If you bought them all separately right now, it's $341. But if you go there to the bundle and you type in Elite Member, we're going to give you $50 off the current price. You'll get it all for $179. That's my college regular season, NFL regular season, postseason, and this Phil Steele Plus Phil Steele Plus, $59 alone. So you're paying $70 for 13 weeks of college and pro newsletters at $40 a week. You're getting a hell of a deal. $341, $129. But type in Elite Member to get that $50 off the bundle. Now let's get to some selections. We're going to take a look at Penn State, Maryland. If you go to the Vegas Power Ratings, which I have up on philsteele.com, Penn State has fallen out of the AP top 25. Completely out of it. Guess what? They're in the top 10 of the Vegas Power Ratings. Yeah, they're still a pretty good team. And the thing I want to point out here in this game with Penn State and Maryland this week, Penn State's at home, so I'm going to put them on the right. And Maryland is the visitor, so I'm going to put them on the left. So now we got Maryland on the left, Penn State on the right. Maryland was sure doggone impressive against Minnesota last week. Look at that, 675 yards. And they're getting 25 from an 0-2 Penn State team? Sorry for that. All right, I like Penn State. I'm laying at 25. Now let me explain why. First of all, Penn State's much better than 0-2. Indiana, they outgained by 277 yards, 488 to 211. They just played Ohio State. I told you how close they were to having an 11-point loss last week. Ohio State's the best team in the country right now. They're playing to an average game grade of 109.6. Let's take a look at the series history. Once again, I want to show you how to use Phil Steele Plus. All you do when you want the series history is you click down here. You see where the team names are? Click on that team name. Boom. This is every time Penn State has played Maryland the last 23 years. Look at these greens. Now look at the last 3 meetings these two have had together. Oh, Penn State has won 66-3, 38-3. And remember last year, Maryland was hot. We'll take a look at Maryland over here. Maryland beat Howard, beat Syracuse, got upset by Temple, but they were rolling. They had an unstoppable offense. They are rolling. And they were a trendy upset pick. They were at home. They were having a blackout at home on I believe it was a Friday night against Penn State. Everybody's excited. Look at this final score. 59-0. 60 yards rushing in the game for Maryland. So the series history clearly says Penn State can and will deliver a big win. Then the other thing I want to point out, and something I pointed out in the magazine, if you look under the offensive write-up for Maryland, it clearly talks about the fact that when Maryland gains 125 yards per game rush, if they gain under 165 yards rushing, they have gained last year 11.8 points per game, 225 yards per game. Let's take a look at that. Here's under 165, 17 points. Under 60, they had 0 points. Under 165 here, 10 points. Under 165 here, 7. Under 165, 14. Under 165, 7. Under 165, 16. Look what happens when they gain over 165 yards. 79, 63, 48, 14, and 28. So they do a lot better when they can run the football. That's been the case this year. Under 165, 3 points. Over 165, 45 points. Penn State's run D, giving up 125 yards per game this year. Last year they gave up 95 yards per game. The only reason they're giving up 125 yards per game this year is they played Ohio State. They're not playing Ohio State this week. They're playing Maryland. My computer forecasts Penn State to allow 125 yards per game rushing. Now, wouldn't you like to have my computer forecast on every Maryland game? It's that simple. Under 165, no offense. Over 165, offense. So we are going to take Penn State minus 25 with my computer calling them to have 125 yards per game rush. And this has been going on in Maryland even before Loxley got there. You go back 2 years ago, look at this. Over 165, 45 points. Over 42 points. Over 34. See these green rushing numbers? See the big point totals? Then you look when they have poor rushing totals. 3, 3, 0. Do you see how the trend is for Maryland? That's been going on for quite some time. I think Penn State can shut down the run. Penn State will score some points. They are an angry 0-2 team. They are the best 0-2 team in the country. I'm taking Penn State minus 25. And remember, these red and green totals that we have here, they go all the way down on every team. You can get all this is at your fingertips. You go all the way back to 2009. You want to look up something from 2009? There it is on every single team. So do utilize these team pages on the Phil Steele Plus. All right, let's go to my Phil Steele Plus Game of the Week. We won it a couple weeks ago. I don't think I had a Game of the Week last week. 2 weeks ago, We had a solid winner with the game of the week. So let's get to this week's Phil Steele Plus Tour game of the week. It is going to be Arizona against Utah. So let's click up Arizona over here. We got nothing to see for this year's stats, but that's okay. It's the first game of the season. All right, let's take a look here for Utah. Now, what I want to show you, I'm going to show you the magazine. Now, you all have the magazine. The magazine's available at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million exclusively this year. They still have them on sale because the Pac-12 hasn't even kicked off yet. But just one minor part of the magazine, which is major to me, is the spread logs. If you look at Arizona's spread log here, let's take a look at how Arizona does as an away dog. 2-3, 1-3, 1-2, 0-4, 1-3. Arizona's a poor away dog. So you have a team that, as an away dog, is 5-15 in this run. They're also poor against conference. Let's see how they do in conference play. 2-7, 6-3, 3-5-1, 2-7, 3-6. In conference play, Arizona is 16, 28, 1. Now, this is on every page of the Phil Steele magazine. Every page, you get all that information. It's in one little block. You know I cram information in the magazine all over the place. That's just one little block of the magazine, which you can use all season long. Now let's take a look at the Utah record page. This is taken directly from the magazine. How do they do as a home favorite? 5-2. These are, of course, against the spread. 5-2, 4-1, 4-1. So as a home favorite, they come in 13-4 over the last 3 years as a home favorite. How do they do as a against conference play? 8-2, 6-4, 6-3, 6-3. Last 4 years in conference play, 31-19-2. So you have a great home favorite against a poor away dog, a great conference team against a poor conference team. And it's not necessarily just about angles. Utah, of course, if we take a look at them from last year, let's go take a look at last year's page. And once again, you've got this in the magazine. The only difference is it's not color-coded green and red. We see a lot of red over here. And Arizona averaged 86.3 for an average game grade. Utah averaged 106.6. Look at all this green. Look at this rush defense. Look at this rushing offense. Look at this completion percentage. It's all there for Utah. Look at this rush defense. Once again, you could tell at a glance where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are. You can tell Arizona did run the ball a little last year, 174 yards per game. Of course, Arizona ran it better. So Utah was a much better team. And something else I want to point out about the website, when you have your magazine, if you want to know the players that are not playing this year, we take a look at, just come over here under FBS information, and we're going to take a look at injuries and transfers. You can go to Arizona, and here, circle Colin Schooler, linebacker, wide receiver Brendan Schooler, linebacker Tony Fields, defensive tackle. Now you're adding these two, but these guys are gone. Kevin Doyle gone. So they lost 2 starting linebackers, a backup linebacker, and a defensive end. The Arizona chart not completely updated. We'll get a couple of those guys added in there. But they've suffered some deletions on defense, and it was a weak defense to begin with. So add it all up. My Phil Steele Plus game of the week, we are going to take Utah, and they are minus 14 over Arizona. 14 seems pretty cheap with all that stuff I didn't just showed you, doesn't it? I think Utah is one of the top 4 teams in the Pac-12. Arizona may be the weakest team in the Pac-12 this year. Take Utah minus 14 over Arizona. They've got the angles going for them. They've got some attrition on the Arizona defense. We are going with Arizona. All right, let's get to another play here. And one other thing I want to show you on philsteele.com. I hope you're using all the information that's up there. It's up there. Go under on the homepage. When you click on that, let's click on the info, and let's look at the offense versus defense YPG. Northwestern this year is actually leading everybody with 304. What that is, it's what I showed you out here. This is the offense. Are you plus or minus? Then we just add the two together. Ohio State's up there, Wisconsin up there. Now, the Big Ten's up there more in this case because they've only played 2 games. Naturally, if you play 7 games, it brings the average down. So I think that'll come down a little bit. Of the teams that have been playing, Alabama, plus 224. BYU, plus 221. Clemson's up there. Iowa at 0-2 is up there. UCF, plus 180. UCF's got 2 losses. They're plus 181 yards. Who's at the bottom? Any good teams down here at the bottom? Oh, Minnesota. Indiana's actually down here right now. Let's see if anybody with a good record. Navy has a good record. They're down here at minus 119. Kansas State. I pointed that out last week. Remember, we used Iowa, in press box, we used West Virginia over Kansas State. Kansas State's minus 88 yards per game. Somehow they're 4-2. So that's up there for you to look at each week. And in this case, one thing I do want to show you, let's go back to that FBS info. We're going to go to offensive average here. Iowa State is actually up here, number 19, plus 111 yards per game. They're taking on Baylor. And this is not yards per game. This is yards per game versus opponent averages, which I think is a really interesting stat. This on each team page. They are number 71. So Iowa State's a lot better team in this category. Another thing that we have up there, and one thing to look at under the FBS info, is the strength of wins, pain of losses. What this means is if you beat a team, you get credit for every FBS win that team has. Clemson's at the top at 17. BYU's got 16. Bama 15. Now, if you lose to a team, you get every loss that team has. ULM's at the very bottom with 17. Syracuse is up here with 13. Heck, Louisville's got 12. Florida State's got 11. And then this gives you the overall average right now. Clemson's at the top. BYU, Alabama, all at the top of that. And if you look at the strength of wins, naturally, Iowa State's going to be a lot higher because Baylor's only got one win all year. It was against Kansas. So they actually have credit for 0 wins on the year. Meanwhile, Iowa State's got credit for 6 wins on the year with their 4 wins. Most of those came against Oklahoma, where they got credit for all of theirs. Now let's take a look at this matchup itself. Iowa State against Baylor. And we are going to put, we're going to put Iowa State on the right and Baylor on the left. So let's put Iowa State on the right, Baylor on the left. And one thing I want to show you here is 2 games. This is where if you drill into a game, you learn a lot about it. And that's why these box scores that are on here from collegepressbox.com are invaluable. I want to take you back to this Iowa State-Texas Tech game. 31-15, right? They only beat Texas Tech by 16. Now they're playing Baylor, so how can they beat them by more? I watched every play of this Iowa State-Texas Tech game. Here is every play of this Iowa State-Texas Tech game. Texas Tech blocked a field goal for a touchdown. If you look at how this game was played, Iowa State opens up the game right here with a long drive, touchdown. Then Iowa State gets the ball back, long drive. They go for a long field goal. Texas Tech blocks it. Let's look at the drives for Texas Tech in this game. Texas Tech drives. They had 7 yards, 0 yards, 7 yards. They did get 34 yards, got a couple of first downs. 19 yards, 2 yards, 10 yards, 9 yards, 7 yards. They are going nowhere. Iowa State is shutting them down. Then, once the score, if you look up here, look at the score of the game. Once the score of the game reached 31-7, and Iowa State started putting in the backups, voila. Texas Tech started moving the football. 54, 88, and 38 yards on their last 3 drives. An 88-yard garbage touchdown drive. So Iowa State, look at this defense. And look at Iowa State's offense. 74, 68, 62, 80. It was a complete beatdown. 31, 39, 70, 67. Last 3 drives of the game, Iowa State had 7 yards, and Texas Tech had 182 yards. So, I mean, that was a complete beatdown for Iowa State. That's what drilling into these box scores out here does for you. Now, we do the same thing with Baylor over here. Baylor took on West Virginia. I want to show you a first quarter stat here. If we look at the end of the first quarter, well, I'm watching this game closely. 2 turnovers, I think, for Baylor early. Let's take a look at the first quarter stats. Here they are. West Virginia, 7 first downs to 0. West Virginia, 99 yards to 1, yet they're only winning 7-0. That's how the whole game went. Then you look at this next game. Let's take a look at Texas. And this, all we have to do is look at the top here. It is 27-3 when Baylor gets 2 fourth-quarter garbage touchdowns. Okay, so Baylor's moving late against the backups. TCU last week. Here's an interesting stat. TCU last week at one point had a 324 to 56-yard edge. 33-7 they led this game. If you look right here, when it's 33-7, TCU has a 324 to 56-yard edge. Let's go take a look at these drive. Do we have the? Yeah, we got the drives on here. Here's your drive charts for Baylor. 0-2, 19-4, -8, 9, -3, 22. Then, once it's got out of range, out of hand, or even here, 35, -17, -9, Baylor got 69, 61, 71, 49 their last 4 drives, including 2 touchdowns and a field goal. You look at the final score of that game and you say, wow, that was a close game. No, it wasn't. TCU took the foot off the gas, up 33-7, and that's when Baylor did their damage. So you have a Iowa State team that dominated Texas Tech in their last home game. You have a Baylor team that only scores when the opponent lets up late. The spread's only 14. So if Iowa State's up by 31, we can give up a couple of touchdowns here. I like Iowa State. I like a minus 14 over Baylor. And then as this game here, and that's use those college press box. Now, some other things I want to show you. If you look at Iowa State, all these start charts are updated. So if you want to see any attrition on the offensive line, you see Downing start here at left guard. Then they went to Simmons. They had a replacement here at right tackle. So there's been 2 changes on the offensive line so far this year. Let's see if Baylor's got any changes. Well, they've only played a couple of games. Don't have the TCU game updated yet, but that'll get there. But these I find invaluable as well. And you can see when players go out, come in, and how stable a team is. So these start charts are available. They're right here on every team. Also available are the last 40 years' results. Now, these take you all the way back to 1976. So if you want any spread on any game since 1976, you got it. It's right here at your fingertips. If you want to know, right here we started putting in the halftimes. 2004, you have the halftime score of every game all the way back to 2004. And you also have the totals on every game dating back to 2003. Now, some of you weren't even around or watching football in 2003. But I can tell you, back in 1998, they didn't have totals on every game. They had totals on maybe a handful of games. And then here they started to put them at totals on every game. We started logging them on every game. They're in there now. You have totals back to 2003. Also down here, you can see Jim Walden was the coach. Dan McCarney had a great run there. Gene Chizik was the coach of Iowa State. Did you know that? You know that now. Paul Rhodes came in there, had a good run. Matt Campbell has been there. And look at this. They were 3-9, 2-3 wins. Campbell's got 3, then 8, 8, 7. So you've got all that. You can see where they finished in the Big 12 each year. You got their stats for each year. You've got that for every team. You can do the same thing with Baylor. It's on every team's page. Matt Rule's gone. Dave Aranda's in. Art Briles was there. They had the potent offense. You could look over here and see what the offense was doing each year. You know, the 45, the 44, the 45. All that's available on every single team page. We also have FCS stuff. And one thing we're going to take a quick look at, and I'm just going to show you how quickly you become an instant expert on every single team. SF Austin is playing Eastern Kentucky this week. I don't even know what the line is. I don't even think there's a line on the game. I have not looked at this game one stitch. But now I'm going to get up to speed on both these teams and become an instant expert on them. We have all this information for the FCS teams right here. We're going to click on SF Austin on the left. And we're going to click right there. And then we're going to click on Eastern Kentucky on the right. And let's take a look there. Okay, how did Eastern Kentucky do last year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They were 7-5 last year. They outgained their opponents by 39 yards per game, played to a 63.6 level. How did SF Austin do? Ooh, they weren't very good last year. They only won 3 games, played to a 52 level. So last year, you could tell at a glance, now you're an expert on the FCS. Eastern Kentucky was 11 points better than SF Austin last year. This does take into account strength of opponents, so they must play in a little bit tougher of a conference if that's 52-9 based on all this red here. Excuse me. All right, so now let's take a look at this year. Eastern Kentucky's got this big running back, Alonzo Booth. I did watch early games of Eastern Kentucky. I did not watch them against Central Arkansas last week. They came out of there with a win. They beat Central Arkansas 31-28. Look at this. They struggled against Marshall and West Virginia, 2 excellent teams. West Virginia's leading the nation in defense, Marshall right at the top as well. But now against better competition, 428, 480, 425, 460. Defense is giving up some yards. I'm a little concerned about this red, 5.3, 69%. Their quarterback, Parker McKinley, hitting 63%. Last year he only hit 52, so he's improved. He's got a 12-5 ratio. Last year was only 7-9, so that's improved. I like their running back, Alonzo Booth. Now we come over here to SF Austin. They played UTEP tough. They played UTSA tough. They got blown out by SMU. Now they're playing Division II teams, West Texas A&M, Angelo State. They did beat Abilene Christian, and they beat Western Colorado. So these stats are going to be a bit skewed based on who they played. And as you can tell, here, they win a game 64-7. They're given an average game grade of 69.5. They lose to UTSA by 10. They got a game grade of 68.8 because they're playing an FBS team on the road and only lost by 14. Here they're taking on a Division II team. That's what I love about these average game grades. They take everything into account. So this is saying that over here, this team has played the tougher schedule, which is Eastern Kentucky. It says they're 69.3 versus 58. So I'd have to favor Eastern Kentucky somewhere in the 10 to 14 margin. When the line comes out, you figure out who you like in that game. I'm not making a selection on it, but all this information, you could go back and look at Eastern Kentucky all the way back to 2012. And by the way, spring football, when that starts and it's FCS, you're going to want this FCS information at your fingertips. Now, we also have NFL on Phil Steele Plus, and NFL was a winner last week. Gave you Indianapolis over Detroit. I think Indianapolis covered that game pretty comfortably. So let's go take a look at our NFL team pages. And when we click on the NFL team pages, I love the logos. So you got the Miami Dolphins around the left. They've got Tua at quarterback. And look at this, 28 points. Tua's the savior. They beat the Rams 28-17. Gotta love Miami. Look out for that offense with Tua at quarterback. And they're taking on Arizona. The line's 4.5. My play here is Arizona minus 4.5 over Miami. It's the fifth and final play. I was going to put up more plays. We had a whole bunch of games got canceled last night. Took away some of my selections. So 5 selections this week. Arizona in the NFL is the other one. Now, first of all, you know Arizona's playing in the toughest division in the NFL, right? They're in the same division with Seattle, San Francisco, and the Rams. So they're playing an extremely tough division. They just beat Seattle in their last game. How about that? The only team to beat Seattle this year. They're a team that if they're not playing Seattle, they win by big margins. Arizona's wins this year have been by 28, 20, and 15. And even last year, I think if you look at some of their wins, here they won by 14, here they won by 14. They tend to win by bigger margins with Kyler Murray at quarterback. The one thing you look at also here, and once again, in the NFL, we have this. If you click on the NFL, nope, not NFL team page. Let's go to the home page for the NFL. We're going to take a look at NFL info. And let's go to strength of wins. Arizona's right up here. They've got a strength of wins of 14. Now, Miami's not bad. They're at 10, so they're up there. They rank 16th in the NFL. Arizona's number 9. That big win over the Rams helped them. Also under NFL information is the YPG. And if you take a look at the YPG in this one, we have got Arizona is plus 22.3 yards per game in the against opponent averages. And meanwhile, when you take a look at this, the Miami Dolphins, Miami is down here. Let's take a look. They're all the way at the bottom, minus 74.9 against opponent averages. So that's a pretty big advantage here for Arizona, and they're only laying 4.5. Now, one thing I've loved for years and years, and one thing I think that you find a lot of value in, is the misleading final. A lot of folks just look at the score of the game. Tua is back. They won the game 28-17. They beat the Rams. This team is on a roll. Let's take a closer look at that game. 145 yards offense, 8 first downs. The Rams had 471 yards offense, 31 first downs. How unbelievable that the Rams even lost that game. If a team gets outgained by 326 yards and wins by 11, bells go off in my head. Bet against that team next week. Amazing stats for the Rams last week. Dominated every aspect at that game. And Tua and company only put up 8 first downs and 145 yards. Now they're taking on a team from the toughest division in the NFL that has beaten teams to a pulp when they beat them. Teams in this level, like Miami, they've beaten them by big margins. On the year, Arizona's plus 41 yards per game, and Miami's minus 52 yards per game. That tells you a big thing there. And then, as I mentioned, these yards per game averages here, Arizona's near the top. Miami gains 56 yards less than what their opponents allow, and they allow 19 yards above what their opponents allow. So add it all up. I like Arizona minus 4.5. We looked at strength of wins. We looked at YPG. Once again, you know, we had a losing week 2 weeks ago, and I gave you that free newsletter at $20 value. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoy these Phil Steele Plus tours. I'm out here trying to give you winners each and every week. We came up point in each game from being 6-1 on this last week, but I'll take 4-3 every week. If we go 3-2 this week, I'm happy. I'm shooting for 5-0. Let's see what the Phil Steele Plus Tour does. And I'd like to thank you for taking the time to go through the Phil Steele Plus Tour, and hopefully that helps you utilize all this information that's up there on Phil Steele Plus. Good luck to you this weekend. Hopefully you have a lot of winners.